Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder as I head out for a walk and deliver an episode to you while I stroll around. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, good afternoon, listeners. It's a lovely day here in suburban Chicago, and I'm on my way home from the library. I'm glad to be talking to you today, and I thought it would be a good chance to talk about 3 more games that I've played recently and haven't had a chance to talk to you yet. I'm just now finishing up the games that I played in August, so I'm catching up. It is early October, but 3 or 4 more episodes like this and I should be caught up. So today I'm going to do another episode of Board Game Espresso Expresso. This is a game in which I talk about, it's a game in which I talk about 3 games that I played recently for the first time and give you my first impressions of those games. So the first game I want to talk to you about today is a one-play puzzle game that's sold in 3 parts. Each part takes between 3 and 5 hours to complete. I think it took us around 4. I was lucky enough to have my design partner Rob pick this game up, but he and his family weren't going to have time to play it soon, so he loaned it to me. Haha, thank you, sir. And so we got to try the first chapter of Mother of Frankenstein. I'm not going to say too much about the game itself because I don't want to ruin it for anybody who is listening who might play it later. Suffice to say, it is a puzzle game that has a really interesting approach. The idea is that you are the you are the descendant of Mary Shelley, the author of Frankenstein or the Modern Prometheus, and you have received a package of things from her that are leading you towards some solution. So the premise is you've got this puzzle of stuff that you got from an ancestor, and these are all sort of puzzle things, but it's all tied into the story of Frankenstein. So this is a game that you should play. You shouldn't play if you're entirely unfamiliar with Frankenstein, and I think it's probably better if you've actually read the novel. I think you can get, I don't think you need that to play the game, but I think the theme is going to come out much better. In terms of puzzles, these are a bit more involved than your usual escape room type puzzles. If you're doing something like an unlock or an exit, generally those you're going to play them in an hour, maybe an hour and a half. So any given puzzle is going to take you 5 minutes, maybe 10, and you're going to go through a bunch of puzzles. This one is a bit more involved. The puzzles are a bit more intricate. They're a bit more elaborate. There's some more complex thinking to do. I wouldn't say I found this intriguing and interesting and reasonably challenging. It wasn't incredibly difficult for us. Now, we've done a lot of these kinds of puzzle games, and this is my bailiwick, so to speak. So sometimes it's a little hard for me to judge how difficult the puzzles are. Because if it plays on something I've seen before, or if my mind is thinking in the path that it's trying to think, then I can follow that logic pretty well. I will say, though, this game relies less on the kinds of arcane and minute observations that some of the other games rely on. One of the things I dislike about both Unlock and Exit is that sometimes the solution depends on you either seeing stuff in a specific way that's just like the designers wanted to see it, or sometimes just observing a piece of the game in a way that reveals a particular thing. And if you miss that particular observation, then you can't proceed until you get a hint and be like, oh, there was a flower there that I didn't see. Or like with Unlock, sometimes there's a subtle number written on one of the cards. And in Unlock, whenever you see a number on a card, you get to take that card. So if you miss that subtle number, then you're stuck until somebody notices it. I don't recall having anything like that in Mother of Frankenstein. Now, the game is set up in a way that you could do it in pieces, but I think generally they kind of expect you to do the full chapter in one sitting, which is what we did. So we did the full chapter in one sitting. It was about 3.5 to 4 hours, I think, to do the first chapter. And then there are 3 chapters to the game. So, but each chapter comes in its own box. So it is a little bit shorter as a one-play game than some of the other games of this ilk. If you think about like a campaign game, Detective, A Modern Crime Story, for example, costs like 5. Gives you like 5 adventures that are each several hours. This one in terms of time is a lot shorter, but the puzzles are much better. and I thought it was really great. They also do sell a recharge pack. Now I think that the way we did it, you wouldn't actually need to buy the recharge pack, but I'm going to say thanks to my friend for loaning it to me, because then, you know, the people encountering it are encountering it like it's for the first time. That's Mother of Frankenstein, Chapter 1. I'm not going to share Chapters 2 and 3 when I play them. I mean, I might mention them in gameplays, I suppose, but probably not, because I don't generally talk about future gameplays of games I've already played. So anyway, that's Mother of Frankenstein. Really interesting if you get a chance to take a look. Mother of Frankenstein was designed by Terry Pettigrew Rolap and Tommy Wallach and published by Arcane Wonders. So next up, I want to talk about a small trick-taking game that I played. This is called Trio. Actually, the game that I played was not called Trio, it was called Nana, but that was the Japanese version of the game. Trio is the version of the game that you could find now if you want. It's got a kind of New Orleans theme, and it looks like an avocado on the cover. I'm looking at it here. Although, actually, according to Board Game Geek, Nana re-implemented Trio, so perhaps I've got it backwards. It's published by Cocktail Games, and the designer is Kaya Miyano. Trio is like I said, it's a trick-taking game, or it's a ladder climbing game, actually, where you're putting out different cards, and your goal is to get sets of 3 of particular cards, and then you get points based on the sets of 3 that you have. It's a relatively simple game to pick up, but pretty interesting, and you could see how if you had a group of people who played it a bunch, there would come to be a level of depth that was not there on our first play, but you definitely can see that it would be, and it made for an interesting play. I don't know really much about the Trio theme. Like I said, it was Nana, and it was sort of themed around Christmas, but it was a fun game, and certainly one I would play again, although not one I'm particularly keen to seek out. I don't know, like, trick-taking games, I enjoy them. I like to play them quite a bit, actually, but I don't have a lot of them, in part because it doesn't fit my family play style very well. That said, Trio is an interesting one if you get a chance to play it. Next up is a revisit. As you'll remember, I like to do 3 new games that I've tried and 1 game that I dusted off. A dusty game is one that I haven't played for more than a year, so I've dusted it off. I took it off my shelf, dusted it off, and gave it a play. And this is a favorite of mine that's been around for a long time. This is Perudo. This is a game from Peru, I believe, and is often talked about as liar's dice. It's a relatively simple concept. You get a cup, you get 5 dice. At the beginning of the game, everybody puts the dice in the cup and rolls them, and they peek at the dice. And you can see that your dice are, 1 through 6 and in variety. And then what happens is whoever is the start player starts a bid. And what the bid is they have to bid how many dice around the table they think have a certain value. So they could say 3 5s. And that means they think if everyone lifted up their cup right now, we'd see 3 5s. Now, 1s are wild in the base game as well, or in the standard bid. So if you're saying 3 5s, you're saying, of all the dice that are out here on the table, I think 3 of them are either 5s or 1s. And then the next person who bids can either bid a higher number of 5s, so they could go 4 5s or 5 5s or whatever, or they could raise the value of the bids, so they could say 3 6s. And that lets the next person have a little bit of room to bid. They could also bid aces, which is where you halve the bid and then bid only on 1s and nothing's wild. I don't want to spend too much time on the rules, but suffice to say, the bidding part is the really interesting bit. And then the other bit is when the bid comes to you, if you don't want to raise the bid, your only other option is to say dudo, which means doubt. And when you say that, you are saying, I think you are wrong to the person before you. So at every moment, people either have to stake their claim on an idea, or they have to claim that the other person's idea is wrong. Which, when we played, I had a number of times, it was really good, where, say the bid would come to me and it's 4 5s. And looking around the table, I'm really sure that 4 5s is the correct bid. Like, there are actually 4 5s. Which stinks, because then I can either raise the bid, and then it's probably not right, and the next person would have to raise it more to keep me in, or I could say doubt, even though I'm pretty sure I'm not in doubt. So either way, I'm kind of screwed. It's great. Liar, there's a reason that it's been around a long time. There is no well-known designer. I believe the person who brought it to the board game community as Liar's Dice is Jeffrey Allers. I could be wrong on that. But like I said, that's a sort of simplification or capturing of this game that's been around a long time. And the version I have is called Perudo. I got it at a Goodwill, but I'd heard about it before, and it's great. So if you get a chance to play Perudo or Liar's Dice, definitely do. If you know the game Skull, it's basically the same as the game Skull, or it's so similar as to be like when you're playing it, you go, oh, this is kind of like Skull. The big difference is in Skull, Skull is faster. Perudo is probably a half an hour if you have like the full complement of 6 people. Skull is like 15 minutes at the most. So it's just quicker. It gets to the meat of the matter faster. So that is Perudo. All right, so the last game I want to talk about today is one that arrived from Kickstarter just before Gen Con. This is Sagrada Artisans. Now, my family has always been very enthusiastic about Sagrada. We have all but the only expansion we don't have is the third of the little small box ones, which I assume we'll get at some point, but I haven't picked it up. Well, Sagrada Artisans is the new legacy version of the game, designed by Adrian Adamescu and Daryl Andrews, published by Floodgate Games. In this game, instead of drawing dice and putting them on your boards, you have a book full of sheets depicting different windows, and you have colored pencils. So the idea is now, instead of drafting dice to put on your board, you are drafting dice that you then color in on your board. The advantage of this is that there aren't nearly as many dice, right? The game comes with fewer dice, and then uses randomization to reveal different amounts of dice at different times. And then you are coloring sheets. You have, I think there's 10 or 12 different windows sheets in the booklet, and that's the whole campaign. The nice thing is I bought the set. It comes with 4 booklets. We're playing it 2 player. So after we finish the campaign, conceivably, I think we could play another campaign of it and just start over if we wanted to. I also did buy the window refills, which it comes with a bunch, and I bought the extra ones as well. So we have plenty of refills if we want to keep playing once the campaign is over. The legacy part is that you're coloring the sheets, and those are done. Once you've used the one sheet, you turn the page, you're not using that one again. But at the end of the game, you win different things, and those things that you win are going to go into your collection, and they become things you can use in the future, but you can only use them a certain number of times. Like, there'll be tools, and each time you use them, you have to mark a little thing, and once you've used them enough times, they break, and you can't use them again. So the legacy part comes from the bonuses that you get and how you choose to use them. You also can use bonuses to buy points, and the points, of course, are important for the end of the campaign. In each game, you're going to score points, and then at the end, the winner gets 1 or 2 points for the campaign, and then the person, just winner and loser, because we have 2 players, the loser then gets a bunch of bonuses that get them extra tools and other things that will help them toward winning the next round. I don't want to say a ton more about it because obviously it's a legacy game. You don't want to give a lot away. I will say after the first 2 plays, though, the arc of the reveal is relatively low. There's some new cards that we get. It's quite possible that we're going to reveal something else that will be amazing. There's a bunch of stuff left to open, clearly, but because the game is really not very narrative, the story component of it is basically non-existent. There is a story. Your family's competing to be the Pope's main choice for doing the windows in the Sagrada Familia, I guess. It's a little unclear and frankly unnecessary. The story isn't really about that. So it's fun and all. I'm really enjoying it. Looking forward to playing the rest of the campaign. We definitely will. But it's not, it makes sense to call it a legacy. They did follow the rules for what makes something a legacy game, but it's not, it doesn't have the same charge for me as some of the other ones have in the past, other legacy games had in the past. That said, really fun. Glad to play it. So, what games have you been playing recently? Head over to Board Game Geek Guild 3269 and share your thoughts there. If you want to reach out to me, you can email me, brendan@rattleboxgames.com, or you can send me a direct message. Wombat929 is my username on Board Game Geek. I'd love to hear from you, and I'm looking forward to sharing ideas with you and chatting with you. If you'd like to play a game, I'm on Board Game Arena a lot and Yucata.de, less but still often. In either of those places, Wombat929 is my name. Invite me to a game. I'll probably play with you, or send me a message. We can be friends and chat there. Thanks for joining me on my walk today. I hope that your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Bye-bye. Well, the first game I want to talk to you about today So the first game I want to talk to you about, talk with you, talk about you, talk for you, tell you about.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.